Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Diane and my passion is painting and creating nature-inspired watercolours in my studio, which are easy for you to do too. I share all my paintings with you on YouTube, and on our website dianeantone.com you can find free downloadable sketches for all the videos to help you make the most of your painting journey. And if you'd like a little bit more, we also have channel memberships with loads of perks for you to enjoy. So welcome on board. Click subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's learn to paint watercolour. Hi everyone, Diane here, welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to do a demo of using some new paints and paper that I have just been sent by a company called Meeden, who are giving everyone 10% off on everything that they order through our discount code, which is Diane10. You just go to their website and the link is in the description below, but it's very simple. It's meedenart.com. And if you order any of these things, which are already unbelievably cheap, unbelievably inexpensive, you get an extra 10% off. So I haven't tried them yet, but I'm going to try them today. What I've got here is watercolor paper block, glued all the way around, and they've kindly used colored glue so that you can see where the gap is, into which you insert your knife. And here I have a palette knife, and to separate the top sheet you just you slide your knife in and then you go, I'm just going to do this to show you how easy it is. You just go round the outside like that, and then when you get round to where you started, you just lift off the sheet and you have a sheet of paper which is now freed. Now the idea is you paint on that while it's still attached. When you've finished, you detach it. That way it stays perfectly flat while you're using water on it, and that's basically very convenient. So I'm going to try this paper out today. It's cold pressed 140-pound watercolor paper. This is a 10 by 7 inch size. There's 20 sheets in this pack. And it is, let me see, the price of that is $16.95 for the 20 sheets. Ruby, stop it. I think that sounds quite good, and if it works, then so be it. We'll try using it more often. Then I've got a set of paints here. Now this is 24 colours of watercolour paints, artist's quality. They are 12 milliliter tubes, so that's twice the size of the Paul Rubens ones that we looked at the other day, as you can see. And they are all the basic colours with the normal names, the traditional names. So we've got lemon yellow, pale yellow, gamboge, yellow ochre, orange yellow, scarlet, vermilion, crimson, rose, cerulean, cobalt, ultramarine, Prussian, pale green, sap green, deep green, phthalo green, violet, brilliant purple, burnt sienna, raw umber, burnt umber, and black, and white. And that to me is so reassuring, because I know what those colours mean, which is so much easier to handle than things called things like azure hue and Berlin blue and May green. So this is very comforting to me. And if these colours are good, then I'm going to be flinging colour around in gay abandon, because this is a bargain basement price. This 24 set is $16.95. There are 12 millilitres in each tube, and that's 296 millilitres of paint for $16. Not bad, I think. I'm not sure if my maths is right there. Hang on, 12 is 144, 288. That's a lot of paint. So I'm going to try it out, and we're going to see if it's any good. Discount on this as well. Another 10% off takes it down to $15. So we'll see. Now, before I go on to paint something with this, I've laid it all out on my palette like this. This is an old palette that I have. Let me see, what's it called? This palette was by a company called Demco. And I've had it years. I don't know if you can still get them. but it's got 24 spaces, so it was ideal. So I just spent 2 hours cleaning the darn thing because it was full of paint, old gouache, and it had got stuck on and it stained a little bit. And I know I could clean that off if I wanted to, but it's not going to contaminate what's in there now. I'm sure it won't. So that's cleaned up quite reasonably nicely, saves me buying a new one. But I just wanted to say about these tubes of paint, they're nice and clear. They're big enough to be able to read what they say on them. And this one has its name, plus it has its pigment and its transparency value beside that, and its permanence. So it's permanent orange, a pigment orange 13. It has 2 stars for permanence, and it's semi-opaque or semi-transparent. And there's 12 milliliters in that. And it says it's called orange yellow, which is good. And one of the reasons why I'm so enthusiastic about the names being kept similar to what they always have been, from my point of view, is the following. You don't have to swatch out all the colours to know what you're working with. If you have a colour that's called May Green, you don't really know what it is. But if you have a colour called sap green, you do know what it is. And you know that you can use sap green to make other greens with. But May Green, what is that? So you've got to swatch it, or you've got to try it. And it all takes up too much valuable painting time, in my opinion. So that's my opinion for what it's worth. You can agree or disagree. It's up to you. But I'm sharing with you my impressions from many years of experience. So there we are. That's that. I'm in one of those moods today. Let's see what happens when we start painting. Now, having said that, there's no need to swatch these out, really, because you know what colours they're going to be, because their names are systematically sensible. I'm going to do that anyway, because I'm interested to see how these compare when they go onto a piece of good quality. This is Bockingford, £140 watercolour, cold press paper, made from cellulose, the same as I usually use. And this is what I used when I did just recently these 2 swatch cards. For this one is the Paul Rubens set of paints, and this is upside down. This is the Kuretake set of paints, which it turns out have a lot of things in common with one another. And if you have the Kuretake set, you don't need this in order to be able to produce any of the paintings that I do on here. If you've got this, you don't need this because they're more or less the same. And what we're going to find out now is whether or not you can do the same kinds of paintings with this 1695 set of 24 from Meeden, also a Chinese company. So let's get started on that. And I'm just going to close down my iPad for a minute because I don't want it looking at me and listening to me and potentially damaging my life. Right, lemon yellow. Here we are, lemon yellow. Let's pick some of that up. I'll get some clean water here. And PY3 is the pigment, which is the same pigment that Paul Rubens use. And we don't know what pigment Kuretake use because they don't give you that information. But it's nice to be able to read it on these tubes. Did I already say this? I think I probably did, yes. Nice and clear, big writing for sad eyes. So that's lemon yellow. And then we have pale yellow, which looks to me like a kind of cadmium lookalike. Oops, there's a piece of dog. There's always a piece of dog somewhere. This would be the equivalent of cadmium. And these paints they're painting really nicely. They do not appear to be weak in their colour ability to produce colour. This one is gamboge, slightly warmer yellow, very nice yellow, clean. And that's got PY1 and PO13 in it. So that's equivalent to cadmium yellow, perhaps. I'm not sure. Cadmium yellow deep, I suppose. This is yellow ochre, which is PY42, the same as earth yellow in the Rubens set, and it looks pretty much the same. Don't you think these look pretty good so far? I'm not using a lot of paint to achieve these coverages. And most of these have only got one pigment in them. So there's no chance of contamination when you try to make mixtures. As you can see, there's one pigment, one pigment, one pigment, one pigment, one pigment, one. Obviously that's only one, it's black. So half of them at least are made up from one pigment. This is scarlet red, which is made of permanent red, pigment red 21. I was reading about these pigments that are made. I'm sure somebody out there who knows more about pigment manufacture will correct me, but I was reading that one of the reasons why the pigments are so good these days is because they're being made for industry in China. And as we know, everything, absolutely everything is coloured. So they have to make the pigments to make, a coloured case for a plastic hairdryer, for example. This is vermilion. So they're making these pigments and they're making them to very high quality. And then if you are an art producer, you can buy these pigments relatively inexpensively and made to a very high quality. And they're all synthetic. So, yeah, they're made from the byproducts of the oil industry, apparently. I'm not a chemist. I've just been told these things by the internet. That's vermilion, nice and bright. Can't complain about that. Okay, crimson, which is going to be your nearest to alizarin crimson if you're familiar with the traditional paints. I'm putting green paint all over my clothes, but that's okay. It's a green top, it'll wash out. Okay. Rose, that is pigment violet 19. All of these colours are, I would say, fairly transparent. That's quite a nice colour. I could see that making good florals. I think when that's painted out thinner, it would be a nice pink. And that's rose. And now we are at cerulean. Cerulean, cobalt, that's this one. Whoops. Don't want to mix that with pink, that wouldn't be fair. Cerulean, often used for skies and water. That's a very nice colour. And then we've got cobalt blue, same thing. And these colours will mix very nicely with this rose here to give you different shades of violet and so on for your florals. And also, of course, with yellows to give you nice soft greens to go on the leaves for your florals. Now we have ultramarine. I don't know whether this ultramarine is going to granulate. It usually does, but I suppose it might not if it's coming from the same factory as all the rest of them. I don't know. It would be lovely if these manufacturers would give you more information about their products. Nobody does these days. It's very hard to find out anything about anything. You can get lots of opinions, but where is the truth? And this is phthalo blue, and it's nice, or Prussian blue rather. Sorry, Prussian blue, which is nicer than phthalo because it's less domineering. Phthalo, somebody said, phthalo blue can ruin your life. Now we're up to pale green, which is down here. It's a little bit like an old Viridian. So this is, this is a good base color to make greens from if you want a convenience green, and then you can add your blues and yellows to it. And this is sap green, I think. That's your real go-to convenience green. It's not going to be too jarring in a floral if you use it straight from the tube. And this is deep green, that reminds me a little bit of one of the colours in the A Gallows set. Sea green or something, I think that was called. It's quite a nice dark turquoisey colour. I think that might be similar to the cobalt turquoise in Paul Rubens' set. I'll compare them in a minute. And then this, I think, is phthalo green, isn't it? Yes. Good strong green. That makes a fantastic colour if you add yellow to it. And if you add any of these greens, if you add a purple to it, you'll get a nice dark brown. And here come the purples. This is violet, which is quinacridone, I think. Dioxazine, yes, dioxazine violet, like Windsor violet, this one. Wow. That's got a lot of intensity. Gracious me. People used to say, oh, cheap paints, they're no good because they don't have the mixing power. They're too wishy-washy. They don't do anything. You can't mix them with other colours to make colours, and etc., etc. But that is blatantly not true anymore. It was true, and now it isn't true. This is purple, which is the same colour, but with some white added. PV23 plus PW6, which is white. You could, of course, do that yourself. If you ran out of one, you could add white. Burnt sienna. Now that's interesting. Burnt sienna is here. And burnt sienna is made from permanent red, pigment red 101, which is the colour that they used. Yes, no, that's the same. That was the same for Paul Rubens. Same. This is the first one I've come to so far that I would say is probably a little bit disappointing because it's a bit on the weak side, and I rely on burnt sienna quite a lot for my paintings because I like to make greys with burnt sienna and ultramarine, for example. And I have a feeling that this, I'm not going to say for sure because I haven't tried it yet. It might be better than it looks, but this looks, compared to a lot of the burnt siennas that I've used, I would say that this one is a little bit on the under-pigmented side. But, you know, if all the rest of them are brilliant, then why wouldn't you just buy a tube of any colour that you feel is a little bit inadequate for your needs? You can always do that. And this is another earth colour. This is raw umber. And that's got black in it, permanent PBK 11, and permanent. No, why do I keep saying permanent instead of pigment? I don't know. This also looks a bit pale. Let's see how it dries. Yeah, that's not very intense, that one. But we'll compare it with the Paul Rubens. And this is burnt umber. There's three quite different and quite nice browns, even though they're not terribly strong. There's nothing wrong with the tone, nothing wrong with the hue, rather. And then we've got black. Which is great because that is nice and dense. And when you're painting florals, you want some dense, strong black to be able to do the center of flowers sometimes. And that will definitely do the trick, I would say. And where there's the white, where's the white? White. I didn't put any out, I will now. There's not a great deal to say about white, but we'll see how well it covers the black line. That's not too bad, actually, is it? So if you wanted to use the white to cover something up that had gone a bit wrong, or to draw in some kind of embellishment, or to do the eye of a bird, you'd probably be able to do it with that. That doesn't look too bad at all. Okay, so there we are. Those are the colours. And let's have a look at these colours compared to Paul Rubens. Lemon yellow, pale yellow and gamboge. This is basically the same. A warmer yellow, a cool yellow, and somewhere in the middle. Then we've got Paul Rubens earth yellow, yellow ochre. And then we've got Paul Rubens cadmium orange and orange yellow here. Then we've got scarlet, which is the equivalent, I would say, of ruby red. This one here. Vermilion is cadmium red. Then we're going down here, and the rose is not equivalent to any of those. That's different from any of those. Cerulean, it's a bit hard to look, is like the transparent turquoise here. Cobalt is very similar to cobalt. That's pretty similar. French ultramarine, this one, and this one. This is paler. This is a different colour. That's a little bit less pigmented. Not surprising, really. This is Prussian, and that is also different. That's interesting. So this set doesn't have what you would call a truly intense blue like Indanthrone or Prussian blue. And then the pale green is very similar to Oriental green. Sap green is similar. The deep green looks like cobalt turquoise. Phthalo green is actually more like that. Yeah, that's very similar. And then we've got the violet and the purple, which match up with those. And then we've got the raw umber, which is this one. Burnt sienna, which is that one. And burnt umber is not in this set, but it is similar to what? Venetian red? 101? Burnt sienna. Interesting. Anyway, and then there's the black. Well, conclusion. These colours are strong, powerful, highly pigmented, highly transparent, easy to paint out, very inexpensive, and you could paint anything with this selection of colours. So let's give it a try. Okay, so I'm going to use a Princeton Aqua Elite No. 8 round brush, some plain water, and I'm going to paint a sort of spring-like yellow and green design. So yellowish flowers and green leaves, as you'd expect. And I'm going to be using here the Meeden watercolor paper just to give it a test. It's cold press, it's acid-free, it is probably not going to be that wonderful, but let's give it a try. And I'm going to use a variety, the 3 yellows that we've got here. There's 3 different shades of yellow there. And just paint a flower like that, I think, and then maybe do another one up here. And this kind of paper, which is probably fairly absorbent, is good for the direct method of painting, which is another way of saying, I suppose, another way of saying modern painting. So I'm mixing some blue. That's I think is what one is that? That'll be Prussian blue. No, that's Prussian blue. This one must be ultramarine, because that's cobalt and that's cerulean. So this is ultramarine, mixing that with lemon yellow to make a nice green. And we'll put a nice stem going down the middle of the page here. And then I'm going to do really lovely loose leaves using loads of water, because I just like watching. We'll join that on there, and we'll join that on there. I just like watching the water run into the stem. See that? When you do that, you use plenty of water, and you draw that down into the stem. And that's super good. And do that here as well. It's quite nice, that. And then I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to make another flower here. Do that one a little bit from the side. And then let's drop some more green underneath. Let's make that a little bit darker with a bit more blue, and let that drip in if it wants. And we can do some nice modern watercolor strokes here. Somebody said, what's the difference between modern watercolor and a traditional watercolor painting? And I would say that modern watercolor, this is my definition, modern watercolor seeks to move outside of the boundaries of realism without becoming completely abstract. It does away with the rules and the desire to achieve anything like lifelike. So that's, I think, what I would say. Yeah, so that's what we're doing at the moment. And I'm going to do some more of a golden brown. So I'm going to pick up the yellow ochre, a little bit of yellow ochre, but I'm going to mix some yellow with that. I think this one, to brighten it up a bit, make it into a nice thick orange. And then I'm going to take another line across the back here, and then I'm going to just paint some really luscious leaves in that colour there. There's a lot to be said for learning how to paint in the traditional method first, and then breaking free and learning to let go. So, you know how they say, I think it used to be said, you can't break the rules until you know what they are. Well, I think that's very true in painting too. So I'm going to put some of this golden colour in the middle of this flower here and let that do what it wants. And I'm going to do that here as well. Yeah, you can't break a rule until you know what it is, can you? I mean, so now some of this is going into this green to make another slightly different green, maybe a little bit more. And I'm going to put some small leaves coming down this stem here. And then I think I'm going to try to get something to come up to the top here, or maybe I might have to bring it down from the top. So let's green that up a little bit. Yeah, this paintbrush has a nice point at the moment, still has a nice point. And let's put, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have turned that back round again. I want to put a couple of leaves in coming here. Like that. And then let's pretend that a few leaves have come in from above and they're trying to get into the picture. When you want to make it darker, if you're doing it so wet as this, then you can just drop more pigment in and it'll just, it'll just spread like that. Here you can do that as well if you want. And let's have maybe another one down here. And perhaps we might want to put some little ones coming in here. And you're just working, what am I working with here? I've got the 3 yellows and some ultramarine, and that's all. And I'm just going to take a little bit more blue and make some darker green and make some circles. And maybe we'll make some of these circles more brownish. Maybe we'll let some of them blend like that. So just join them on so that they can bleed in. Whatever you can think of is what you can do. And so now what I'm doing is I'm just filling in the spaces, because if you don't do a background, one of the things that you can do, which is nice, is to just fill in the spaces like this. And I think possibly I might want to put a little bit more green on my brush and do a few solid leaves here, as well as the ones with the stripes. And then having done that, I'm sort of thinking, okay, these ones could, well, no, I don't think I've really got the space to do that. But what I'm going to do now is come into the centers, and I will probably invest in a little bit of burnt umber here. So let's try and wake that up. It's dried a little bit since I put these paints out, which was just before lunch. So I'll pick up a bit of that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine to make it a little bit darker, but to still keep the brown tones. And we'll just drop that in to the center here. And what we might have to do is we might have to wait for that to dry a little bit and then come in again with a bit more, or we could darken it up a bit with, let's say, try some phthalo blue. If that mixed with the brown, it comes up quite a bit darker. So that's okay too. And yeah, then, well, we could use this perhaps to put some darkness into some of these leaves here. If we felt we wanted to increase the contrast, we could do that, don't have to. And we could put some of it into the berries as well if you want to make them stronger. If you put darks in, often that shows up the lights more, if you see what I mean. So we could do that. It doesn't have to be perfect, just a little bit of an indication like that. And then you could do the same down here, perhaps. Just a little bit of dark. And then, having done that, we're almost finished. Okay, so rather than picking up a white pen, because this is an experiment in the power of these paints, we'll just pick up some of the white that was in the set, and we just put some dashes of white there. I don't like that dark. I'll just lift that out. And if you wanted to, obviously at this point you can you could embellish with some lines, you know, with a pen if you wanted to, or you can just leave it like this. Okay, I'm not going to fiddle with that anymore. That'll do. Well, I like those paints. I think they're great. Oh, yes. No, I'm not going to fiddle anymore. It'll have to do. And I will let you go. I will put the links to these paints and the other things, the paper and the palettes and so on and so forth, in the description below. And also, I'm going to write a blog page on our website, which will have some pictures of these things and the links and the code for the discount, and everything will be over there for you. And honestly, I can't recommend it too highly that a set of these paints here will be absolutely brilliant for you to use for practice work, because they're very good and you can use them to your heart's content, ad lib, ad infinitum, as much as you like. And oh, here's another one that I did earlier. This was the first one I tried out. And so we have these two paintings here. Oh, and there was another one as well. Hang on. While I was practicing, I did this one too. So you can get all sorts of different effects. This one is obviously with the background and then painted on top. And this one and this one are much more direct. So I'll let you go. Have fun trying out some of these ideas. Perhaps you can obviously paint them with your ordinary paints. You don't need to have Meeden paints in order to do that. So anyway, I'll let you go and I'll see you again soon. So bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.